direction.
Carry on my wayward son. Oh wait, I gotta get.
There'll be peace when you are done.
Lay your weary
Okay.
head to rest.
Don't you cry no more.
Cry no more. Bam. Okay. So welcome back, guys.
Hey guys.
Oh my gosh, they're so loud outside. Today we're going to be talking about Gilmore Girls, one of mine and Kenna's favorite show to watch.
I watch it every day.
I watch it when I'm not even paying attention. I'm just soaking it in.
I fall asleep to it.
So we are going to be talking about different themes and elements within the show. Rory's mental health, Lorelai's relationship with her mother, generational trauma. Yes, you got me.
Mm-hmm.
But we wanted to let you know soon that we are going to be uploading audio files to streaming services soon. So if you like listening to stuff on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, all of that, we're going to start looking into that.
So yeah, stay tuned for Two Girls, Two Cities, the podcast, to be on Spotify.
Yes, if you're not already subscribed, go subscribe. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. It's been like maybe 4-5 days now since this happened to me.
I'm so excited. I've been waiting so long for this story. I want to know what happened.
So everyone at work already knows about this because it spread like wildfire. So I was at work the other day, and usually it takes me a really long time to realize I have to use the bathroom. So eventually I was just like, screw it, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I really gotta go. Can I? You with me?
I'm sorry, I was putting my heating pad on my stomach.
Okay.
We got tummy issues here.
So I walk into the bathroom at work, and this elderly woman, who's probably like maybe 70s, 80s-year-old, she has no pants on. Her ass cheeks are out, and she is washing her pants in the bathroom sink. I immediately walk into the bathroom, saw her ass cheeks, and I was just like, done. Nope, I don't want to be here. It smells like shit in here. It smells bad. Like, so I'm sitting there on the toilet and I'm like, why is this woman washing her pants? And then it hits me. It smells like absolute ass.
Did she shit her pants?
This woman her pants in the store, went to the bathroom, took her pants off, and just started washing them in the sink. And not only did I walk in, another girl about my age walks in, sees this woman washing her pants, and has nowhere to go because all the stalls are being used. So she's standing there 2 feet behind this woman who has no pants on, and she's standing there for like a good 2 minutes.
I would have cried.
I started crying. I walked out of the bathroom and I was just like, did that just really happen? I just saw some old woman's ass out.
I would have cried.
I was like, I feel so bad for this woman. I was just like, it happens. It had to happen here though, you know?
Unfortunately. Almost just added where you work.
I just got mooned by an elderly woman at work.
That would have been done. I would have been done. I would have quit. I would have been like, nope, I'm done now.
Her ass cheeks were the first thing that I saw. I was like, no. I'm just going straight into it, man.
I'm just going straight in.
I'm going through life raw dogging it, no regrets.
Yes. Okay, guys. Let me set the scene for you. Stars Hollow. Small town. Mother. Very young mother. Teen mom. Rory Gilmore. Her daughter. TV show. Gilmore Girls.
Rich people learning how not to be toxic, but eventually never do.
Basically, the whole show is just full of toxic people.
Actually, I feel like it's a comparison between, like, people who are morally superior and people who are toxic, and it's just, like, a half and half.
Yes. And each character has their good moments, but it's just each character has many flaws, which is what we're going to dive into.
Yeah, the thing about Gilmore Girls is that every character is so uniquely, like, structured that they're a well-rounded person. They have flaws, they have issues, they have skills and talents and stuff like that. Yeah. So not everyone in this show is like black and white. You know, there's like gray areas to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's what I love about the show. It's like, it's so realistic.
I love this show because they're not afraid to make their characters humans.
Yeah, and they definitely jump out of like stereotypical like characters and stereotyping.
So we're gonna go into Rory's, well, all over the psychology of the show, everyone's generational trauma, and how that affected Rory Gilmore and her downfall. So
I love how, like, I feel like you're setting up this entire video to be like the fall of Rory Gilmore.
Basically, because I love that whole storyline so much.
I feel like if they didn't come out with a year in the life, I feel like it wouldn't have made Rory look like such a failure.
Honestly, because she did not change in the slightest.
Yeah.
And she was like 32 in the year of life.
Yeah, but like somehow she was a terrible journalist and she couldn't land a job. Like that did not sound like her whatsoever.
And the whole storyline with her boyfriend about how she kept forgetting that her boyfriend existed, that wasn't funny, that was toxic.
That was very toxic, which is definitely not the character whatsoever.
No.
So what we're talking about is Gilmore Girls was a 7 season long series. Yeah. And it was at the very beginning of the 2000s, and then 10 years later they came out with 4 episodes. So it was a year in the life.
Yes.
And they take a look at this very academic, very smart girl who wants to become a journalist, and they make her 30 years old, and somehow she no longer is good at being a journalist, and she can't land a job, and somehow she is very bad with her social engagements. Like, that doesn't sound like the person all throughout the 7 seasons.
I beg to differ. I feel like at the end of the series, it very much does sound like Rory Gilmore if she didn't go to therapy.
Well, I mean, I feel like if she were to grow up in the example of her mother slash grandmother, I feel like, yeah, she could have landed towards that, but she never was the type of person to show such a lack of, like, care when it came to, like, interpersonal relationships. So the fact that she had a whole-ass boyfriend and couldn't even remember his name?
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't sound... You know, that could be a part of the daddy issue, though. You know, now that she's older, she was a little bit behind when it came to relationships, so she may have...
Before we get into that whole mess of a reboot, let's talk about Emily Gilmore, because before we even go into Rory or Lorelai, we have to talk about where it all started.
It all starts with Emily Gilmore, basically.
It all starts with Emily Gilmore. So Emily Gilmore is Lorelai's mother and Rory's grandmother. Emily Gilmore is very controlling. She was very overbearing for Lorelai's entire life, and also very controlling for Rory.
Mm-hmm.
Just like at Rory's birthday party, one of the very first episodes.
Uh-huh.
Emily insisted on throwing Rory a birthday party without asking Rory beforehand if it was okay. And then when Emily bought a parking spot for Rory without checking in with Lorelai or Rory first to see if she even needed one, to see if that was even covered for. And then when I can't remember which one. I can't remember if it was Lorelai. I think it was Lorelai. When Lorelai confronted Emily, and Emily was just like, "I'm just trying to help. You didn't ask them if she needed one. You didn't ask them if it was okay.
Yeah.
It's not your child, not your life."
Yeah, she's just like, "I'm the mother. I will take care of this. This is my responsibility. You don't need to take care of the clothing. You don't need to buy the parking spot.
Exactly.
She's my child."
Exactly.
And that's basically what she was trying to run from all of her life. When she became pregnant, she realized if she stayed in the picture with her mother would have basically controlled how she raised her own daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I completely understand why when Lorelai got pregnant at 16 with Rory, she left. She basically became homeless, raising her kid in a shed. But somehow that seemed like a better life for her and her baby than living in a mansion with her rich parents.
Yep. And now I'm not gonna totally hate on Emily, because there are moments where I feel like Emily has tried to reach her hand out to Lorelai and actually genuinely be a caring mother, and Lorelai has pushed her away. Which, in hindsight, again, not gonna blame Lorelai either, because I understand me having mommy issues. I understand where Lorelai's coming from here.
Yeah, when you have a toxic parent that comes out, like, the first time they come out and actually show, like, a genuine, like, interest in your life,
you don't believe
you're not gonna immediately just embrace it.
No. It's hard.
Yeah.
That's what I'm currently going through. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's hard to trust people after they've hurt you time and time again.
Yeah, this show is definitely one that shows that your relationship with your parent really reflects how you're raised and, like, how you interact with people when you're older.
Generational trauma.
We love it.
So yeah, basically I feel like Lorelai, very paranoid about her mother, very defensive, which is understandable.
Right.
And that's why they never could, like, really build a firm foundation.
Lorelai definitely has, like, this complex where she doesn't want anyone else's opinion, or, like, she doesn't want anyone, like, interfering with her decision making and how she does things. And it's a very big, like, strong need. You can see it. And it definitely, you can definitely tell that it comes from Emily pushing her around growing up, and the fact that she can't really push back because at the same time she's toxic. She's just gaslighting her the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Emily does care about Rory. It's very obvious that Emily and Richard love Rory and care about her so much in their own way. However, every time that she is nice and shows some sort of kindness to Lorelai, it always comes with a price. Always, no matter what.
Literally, the very first episode,
when she gave money to Lorelai.
So Lorelai goes to her parents. Literally, it was the last option. She needed money for her kid's schooling because her kid is very smart and she wants to go to private school, but she does not have that kind of money because she obviously ran away from money. So when she finally comes back into her parents' life and she's like, I'm so sorry, I know I want money. Can we not make this a big deal? And they're like, yeah, sure. And Lorelai is just like, oh, thank God. But then Emily's just like, but wait, there's more. And she's just like, I want Friday night dinners. There's always a catch. There's always small fine print in every single thing that she does out of the selfless of her heart, but then she somehow makes it that she gets something out of it.
I'm going to say a better example of this is the termite situation. When termites were eating Lorelai and Rory's house, and Lorelai obviously wanted to get rid of them, so Rory approached her grandparents, without Lorelai even knowing, even though Lorelai had told her multiple times not to go to them. Rory asked Emily what the price is for Emily helping her, and Emily asked her and confused as to why Rory would think that there was a price. There was a price the whole time. She was setting up DRR meetings at the end, which Lorelai did not agree to. When Lorelai apologized to Emily for not being thankful, Emily plays the victim again and says, wow, you sound sincere. And then Lorelai starts to walk away and she goes, by the way, I will be holding my meetings at the end from now on.
Yeah, so a whole situation where you think Emily is doing something out of the goodness of her heart.
And she flips it right around.
With no strings attached. There's always a string attached. Lorelai knows her mother is the puppet master because she likes to plays the strings.
Yep. The entire time, Emily was like, there's no price. Why would you think there's a price? I just want to help you guys out. And then last minute, she's like, surprise!
Lorelai's, mother, do you know you? Like,
yep.
Can we just talk about the fact that Richard knows absolutely everything that's going on?
I was getting there.
He refuses to say. Okay, go ahead.
He got you. Okay, now that we're done doing voice memos.
Voice memos.
So, moving on to Richard, since Miss Meep over here asked about Richard. So basically, my issue with Richard is that he watched everything that Emily put Lorelai through as a kid and put Rory through and did nothing about it.
The first episode when it was the first Friday night dinner that Lorelai had agreed to, and she came over and immediately her mother is putting the screws to her, talking about how she didn't live up to her potential. Literally, if anyone out there has parents who make them feel like a disappointment every day, this is what Lorelai basically was feeling. Every time her mother was in her presence, she always had to bring her down about her appearance or her job or her dating life. And the very first episode, they were basically like treating her like a disappointment right at the dinner table.
Yep.
To the point where she had to go do the dishes, and right at the peak of when they are having a fight in the kitchen, because Lorelai immediately is already recognizing that this is how it's going to be, and she's telling Emily like, "Hey, this is why I left. Why do you think I don't want to be here?" And guess what Richard's doing in the next room? He's asleep at the dinner table. Doesn't even care that Rory can hear the entire fight from the kitchen. And he's asleep at the table. This just goes to show that he's not the one who's adding to like the toxic parenting, but he's just letting it happen.
And also,
I could go on forever about Richard, but continue.
Also, the fact that Lorelai said that she doesn't really have many good memories of him growing up goes to show that he was never really around.
Yeah, Lorelai has quite a good like idea
Memory.
of how to what?
Oh. I was gonna say memory, but continue.
No, I was gonna say Lorelai. She doesn't really seem to have as many daddy issues as you think she should from a father that was so toxic to her. Because in the very beginning of the show, you can kind of tell that like Richard also isn't the proudest to be a dad that had a pregnant teenage daughter. And it really showed that he immediately thought that Rory was going to be the exact same way. Because he didn't want anything to do with Rory. He didn't want to take her golfing or bring her out into society.
Okay. I'm continuing the theme of me just pulling random objects from beside me.
Speaking of, I took a quiz the other day and apparently I'm autistic.
That was so random, but good to know.
As soon as I saw that bear, I was like, it makes sense.
His name is Brad, and he's a drag queen.
Kenna, do you want me to pay for therapy?
Yeah.
But basically,
anyways,
getting back into it, Richard already had a good idea of how much of a disappointment his own daughter was, and he had a pre-existing idea that Rory was going to be the same way, that she was going to be a brat and just a regular teenage girl that doesn't want anything to do with reading or books or nothing. But then when he soon realizes that she's more academic, that's the only reason why he actually started liking his own granddaughter, basically.
Yep.
Because he found out that she wasn't like other teenage girls, which, I mean, understandable, but...
It was cute how they bonded over stuff.
It was really cute.
I loved his relationship with Rory, to be honest, but...
It was cute.
I wish that he tried more with his own daughter.
Yeah, I feel like he thought that the way that he saw Lorelai was how he was going to treat Rory. Like,
yeah, my conclusion on Emily and Richard is I just feel like Emily and Richard never saw things from Lorelai's perspective, ever.
Mm-hmm.
No matter the situation, they just never saw things from her perspective.
And this is where the whole generational trauma comes in, because it's how Lorelai was raised literally affects how she's now raising Rory. And
yep.
You notice how, like, somewhat narcissistic, somewhat toxic traits are being passed down through the generations.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, I feel like some of them, either they're just so used to it that they somewhat can't help it, or maybe a little bit arrogant or ignorant that they are also like that. No yawning.
I'm sorry, I'm awake. Lorelai.
When I first saw Gilmore Girls, I wanted to be Lorelai so bad. I want to be Lorelai when I grow up.
Now I don't, because I'm scared of all the trauma she has. Anyways.
Oh, I'm not
Me
talking
too.
about, I just want to be a girl boss like her, that's all.
Growing up, I realized I am her, but it's because of my trauma.
And your narcissism.
Anyways, Lorelai is a very upbeat and energetic character. Her coping mechanism for everything is her humor, and I feel that is why many people in the fandom don't like her that much, and why she sometimes gets on my nerves, because sometimes I'm like, honey, I understand that humor is your coping mechanism. Me too. But someone is dying. It's not not time to make a joke.
That is true.
Can we talk about Richard's funeral for a second?
Oh, okay, that was terrible.
That was terrible. That was her worst moment. Like, you can't think of one story.
Okay, so
you can't even make something up. Like,
that has to do with the fact that it was from The Year in the Life. I absolutely hated The Year in the Life. So obviously the character who played Richard passed away before they filmed The Year in the Life. So he couldn't play Richard. So they obviously casted him as he passed away. When a scene comes up where they're all like exchanging stories about like their best moments with him, well, I mean, it also kind of goes to show like, did Richard really ever do anything good in Lorelai's life that when she was asked, hey, what's your favorite story about your own father? She couldn't think of a single thing. She couldn't. The fact that Lorelai is such an honest person, she couldn't even lie. She couldn't even come up with a single scenario that wasn't even real to save her life. Yep. She was just like, my father deserves to look like an asshole the way I look like an asshole right now. The thing about Lorelai is that she never really got to choose what to do growing up because of her parents. And then she got pregnant at 16. So she never really got a chance to be a kid. So eventually when Rory becomes grown enough that she can start taking care of herself and doing things, and Lorelai is less hands-on, you start to notice that Lorelai isn't necessarily a mother. She's basically a teenager. She makes silly jokes. She's constant, like, she has the appetite of a teenager. It's like she is regressing in age because she never got a chance to be a teenager.
As you could probably see, Hannah's nickname changed. My nickname has stayed the same.
I'm sorry. It accidentally went back to Meep, so.
No, but our nicknames have a little theme. There are two different characters, like background characters in Gilmore Girls, very iconic. Both of them.
The thing that I love about Gilmore Girls is that it's a well-balanced, like, cast of, like, different characters. So, like, you have all of these different, like, local colors of people. You've got Kirk, he's the local weirdo. And then you've got Andrew, who runs the bookstore, which kind of ties into Rory because Rory loves going to Andrew's bookstore all of the time.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to talk about some of the contingencies in Gilmore Girls because as the seasons picked up, a lot of the information and, like, even some of the, like, the structures of the houses even changed. In the beginning, one of the favorite characters in Gilmore Girls is Kirk. He's the really awkward guy who lives with his mother and is very socially awkward.
That was the worst tick I've ever had. I don't think I've ever had a tick on camera. That was like a full body, like...
Don't start. You're gonna get me started.
Oh my god.
I can feel it. You're, like, sending the vibes. Soon it's gonna hit me.
No, it's the ghost that's attached to you.
And the beat goes...
Remember the Ouija? It's the attachment that we got playing Ouija board.
We never actually got to use the Ouija board, though. That really
We used the Ouija board together.
I know, but it didn't really work. You had to charge it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to Kirk. So Kirk is one of the really quirky characters in the show.
He's used as comic relief.
He is really comic relief, and he is probably in almost every single episode. And in the very first to second episode of the entire show, Kirk actually has an entirely different name. And we first meet him when I think it was Emily who sent over like crewmen to do something to her house.
She told me off camera about this, and I completely forgot that he went by a different name, and I've seen this show like 7 times.
In the first episode, Emily told Kirk, who is actually in the first episode, his name I do believe is Mac, but then he eventually has the permanent name change to Kirk. And Emily told him that the key to Lorelai's house is underneath a turtle, remember? And so she was trying to help them, like, install some sort of system of some sort. And so Lorelai had to come to her house and say, no, I'm so sorry. I didn't want this. Please go away. And in the very beginning, she acts like she does not even know who Kirk is. She's like, hello, excuse me, who are you? Later on, we realize that Kirk, which is his real name throughout the rest of the show, Kenna.
I'm sorry, I'm paying attention. I'm also texting at the same time, but I'm comprehending everything that you're saying, I promise.
Put it down. Put it down.
Oh, wait.
So later in the show, when Kirk finally has a permanent name, okay, we learn that Kirk grew up in Stars Hollow his entire life. Dance lessons with Miss Patty. He went to Stars Hollow High. So how the heck did Lorelai not know who Kirk was beforehand? Yeah. So that's kind of like a contingency sort of thing that didn't make sense. But also, the one that I love the most about Kirk is that how many jobs this man has had.
I have a list.
How many jobs?
62. Just in the show.
So over the span of like 7 years.
But Kirk himself in the show said that he's had over 1,000 jobs in his lifetime.
Over 1,000, because literally whenever the town has any sort of like need, he's there.
Kirk is there.
He's like the little butt monkey. He's just like
the like little guinea pig.
Yeah. Taylor Dozy is the mayor of the town. He's basically like his little bitch. He's just like, here, go drive my Thunderbird. Go through the red light in town.
So we're going to try to go through this fast.
Yep.
DSL installer. Swan delivery man. Assistant manager at Dozy's Market. Daisy delivery man. Coordinator of Max and Lorelai's engagement party. Photographer for the historic first walk across the street. Attempted job, wedding photographer for Lorelai and Max. They turned him down. Mechanic. Server at Bracebridge dinner. Termite inspector. Video rental clerk. Filmmaker. Attempted job, Sophie's music shop. Hey there, skin Caroline salesman. Yes. Delivery man. I'm laughing because I remember that episode so clearly. Spy for Taylor. Attempted job, Luke skateboard and bottle shop employee. Attempted job, manager at Taylor's oldie fashion soda shop. Winston's bakery server. Beauty shop clerk. Director of Miss Patty's dance show. Hockey announcer. Mailman. T-shirt designer / salesman. Helps to move the world's largest pizza. Mold inspector. Skydiver. Security alarm installer. One-of-a-kind mailbox salesman. It just keeps getting better. Firelight festival planner. Dog walker. Pedicab driver. Easter egg hunt planner and egg finder. Mailbox, etc. It literally says mailbox, etc. clerk.
I just had a tick.
I'm about to have one, jeez. Wedding DJ. Firewood delivery man. Polar select men campaign. Okay, movie theater attendant hands out flyers dressed as a hot dog. Bath and shower adhesive salesman. Attempted job, receptionist at Dragonfly Inn. Ribbon collector. Old man Twickham souvenir salesman. Tow truck operator. Engagement ring salesman. Physical therapist. Winter carnival coordinator. Hands out samples at Taylor's oldie fashion soda shop. Realtor. Starts a company called Yummy Bartenders. Sets up at home movie for April's birthday party. Driver of the first car through Stars Hollow's first stoplight. Kirk's diner owner. Organizer knit-a-thon. Wrapping paper salesman. Flower delivery man. Maze guard for Hay Bale Maze. And sets up Rory's going away party. And that's just in Gilmore Girls, not A Year in the Life.
Okay, so, oh my god, I started laughing so hard when you said
my dyslexia got so bad. I, could not read.
I laughed so hard when you said the hockey game spokesman, because he has absolutely no idea what the fuck hockey is. And he's literally the one who's doing all the announcing.
It's so funny.
Hey, Kirk, some of the other guys, not me, but some of the other guys say that if you don't shut up, they're gonna kill you. Dean Forrester.
Oh my god. I love first season Dean.
Another character, I'm named him right now, Andrew. In the beginning of the show, he is known to have had a wife. Let me look at the card.
I'm sorry for yawning so much, y'all.
Okay, we're really tired. I only got 5 hours of sleep last night, but let's go!
Me too.
Who needs sleep?
I need sleep.
So, in the episode where there's the dance marathon where Lorelai and Rory have to basically dance as long as possible, and they're trying to beat Kirk.
I thought I stopped recording for a second. I got so scared. Anyways, continue.
So, Lorelai and Rory are at the dance marathon, and one of the main reasons why they love doing it is 15 minutes into the marathon, Andrew and his wife gets into a fight. It's like a tradition or something. They get into a fight, like a public one, and then they leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right in that episode, that exactly happens 15 minutes into the dance marathon. So it's obviously known that Andrew has a wife. But then, 2 episodes later, no, not 2. I don't know. I'm lying. But the Dean's wedding, though, that episode where Dean got married to Lindsay.
Yep.
They're in a town meeting where Kirk, as the mail carrier, couldn't get everyone's mail correctly, so they had to keep swapping or whatever. And so Gypsy opened up one of Andrew's mail envelopes, and it was a letter to his girlfriend. We already know that Andrew had a wife, and now he has a girlfriend. So does Andrew's wife know he has a girlfriend, or I don't know. But then later on in the episode where they're doing the living pictures, where they have to act like famous art pieces throughout time, right in in the backstage, while they're getting painted and costume and everything, Andrew is literally, your stuttering is starting to rub off on me. Andrew is literally hitting on one of the other people who are working as the living pictures. So this man literally can't keep a woman, can he? I feel like they were really confused on what they wanted Andrew to be.
I mean, I'm not one to judge, so.
So, yeah. And there's also one episode where Luke was buying self-love books, and he's just if you scan it, is it gonna tell you what I'm buying? And he goes, no, what are you buying? Porn? And he goes, you sell porn? No. Andrew, do you know if you sell porn at your own store? Andrew is a very interesting character. Anyways.
Since we went on a little side tangent about Andrew and Kirk, we're gonna jump back into Lorelai and just start from the beginning.
Yep.
Lorelai is a very upbeat and energetic person. That's how she's portrayed in the first season until the very end. Mm-hmm. Her coping mechanism for everything is humor. Literally, one of her first lines is a comedic line. I feel like that's why many people don't really like her that much and say that she's too childish and say that they wish that the character progressed and grew up more, which I agree. Mm. But honestly, I think personally it's also because of how she was raised.
Yeah.
She's regressing.
Yeah, she had to put her childhood on hold to become an adult to raise her kid. Exactly. But now that her kid is grown, now she's kind of going back and regressing.
Yeah, she never really had a childhood or the childhood that she wanted.
Yeah, so she's basically reliving a whole childhood. I mean, the binge eating on Friday nights or whatever, watching TV, just stuff that she never got to do.
We'll mention this more when we talk about Rory and her downfall. But, like, the moment where Lorelai literally says to Rory, I didn't have the privilege of going to college. Like, there was a whole fight. We'll get into it more.
Yeah.
But she just looks at Rory and she's like, I didn't have the privilege to go to college. You should be grateful.
Yeah.
And Rory never really understood what Lorelai gave up for her. Like, obviously, it's not Rory's fault.
Right.
Can't blame the child. But I feel like she should be more respectful.
Yeah.
Of the things that Lorelai has done for her.
If Lorelai had chosen to go the route of letting her parents help raise her child, she still obviously would have had the same opportunities, if yet even more greater opportunities, to get into better private schools, get better connections. But yet, I feel like, yes, Lorelai should have more recognition because she really did. Like, she left everything behind just so that Rory could have that fresh start, to have every single opportunity that she wanted.
Sorry, my shoulder started hurting.
Let Kenna warm up real quick.
Yeah, I just had to, do the little windmill. We're good.
So yeah, she wanted Rory to be able to have the exact same opportunities that she would have had.
Yeah, she focuses so much on Rory and giving Rory a good life. Like, she had Rory at 16. More than half of her life has been Rory.
Mm-hmm. And can we also talk about her caffeine addiction? It's immediately explained that she is absolutely addicted to coffee. She can't function without it. And 10 out of 10, 100%, I believe that's because she had a kid at 16.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she had to work as many jobs, as many hours as possible, while also watching a kid by herself. There's no doubt in my mind she basically has caffeine in her veins because she had to constantly be awake because she had so much responsibility. And she probably put so much stress on herself. So that's probably why her kid is also addicted to caffeine.
Mm-hmm. I need caffeine right now, bro. Anyways, but yeah, she focuses so much on Rory and wants to give Rory a good life and does anything to do that, which give her props for. It's really hard to do as a mother. That's really hard thing to do. I talk as if I am a mother, but
she even jokes about doing the principal in order to get her kid into a good school, even though that's not the right option, and it was a joke. Yep. She would be willing to get desperate enough to basically show up on someone's doorstep and say, "Hey, my kid deserves everything." And I know that I'm being biased, but
now, some things that I don't like about Lorelai, because with the characters, there's things I like about them and there's things I don't like about them.
Mm-hmm.
Every character, because characters aren't black and white. In the show, they have colors.
They are human.
They are very bright rainbow. So many layers.
Like onions.
Yeah. So, Lorelai has some narcissistic tendencies, like her mother. I feel like all the Gilmores do.
Mm-hmm.
She tended to always put herself and Rory above others at times. There were many times where I felt like she thought that she was better than other people. She definitely put Rory on this pedestal and kind of, I feel like, babied Rory throughout Rory's life. Like, until, season 4, when Rory started to get really bad, she didn't really have many consequences.
But, I mean, to be fair, it's not more that she didn't have consequences, but, in the episode where she actually missed her own mother's graduation,
that was bad.
That is a terrible thing, but when Lorelai says that she knows her kid, and when she showed up, she was hysterical. She was like, I'm going to punish myself. I will go without TV or reading or food or whatever. You can throw me out on the porch if you want to, and I'll sleep outside. That's how she felt. And when a kid explains that they're putting themselves through that much punishment, they know that they did something wrong and that it has consequences. And I feel like Lorelai, at the same time, yes, she did look like she didn't give consequences a lot, but I feel like she also, off camera, growing up, she taught Rory that, she has to have a moral compass and to do right or wrong. And Rory obviously knew that that was wrong. Especially since she has a mother-daughter relationship where they're best friends. So Rory saw it as, like, more of, oh my goodness, like, I just betrayed my friend. I wasn't there for her as well. But, like, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I definitely feel like part of Rory's issue is that she had a little bit of golden child syndrome.
Yes.
But anyways, yeah, so Lorelai put her on this pedestal, and so did her grandparents. Basically, anyone that met Rory was like, oh my god, you're amazing, while she was growing up. Which definitely I feel like led to her downfall. She always told Rory how amazing she was and how Rory could do anything, which is a great thing to reassure a child, be like, hey, you can do whatever you want. Like, I mean, like, you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. That's great. But I feel like in the early seasons, she didn't really ever tell Rory when she fucked up. Like, I don't really remember a sit-down conversation where Lorelai was like, hey, look, you messed up. And there were a few times in the early seasons where Rory did mess up.
I mean, to be fair, she did put the screws to Rory when she was about ready to throw her entire private school career just for a guy that she met that day.
Yeah,
that was a moment where she said, I'm going to choose being a mother over being a best friend.
Like I said, there are many times where Lorelai is a great mother. Like, I feel like Lorelai is a good mother, and she really cares for Rory. But she also is a better friend.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Like, she's a better friend than a mother. And there is a difference between being a friend and a mother. You have to find the middle.
I feel like she was really trying her best to find a middle because her mother definitely had no middle whatsoever. I feel like she was desperately trying to be a mother that wasn't Emily Gilmore. She wanted to have a relationship with her daughter where she felt like she can come to a friend first and not a toxic, narcissistic mother. I do feel like yes, but also I do feel like Lorelai had Rory's best interest at heart, and she knew that academics was what Rory wanted. And so even if she said, hey, you're going to become a great journalist or whatever, I don't really think she ever forced that on Rory, and I'm not saying that she did force it. I'm saying they obviously said, like, she's amazing, she can do whatever she puts her mind to or whatever, and she never let Rory, ease off because she obviously saw that that was Rory's dream.
Yeah.
And it's always been Rory's dream. It never once was she not talking about books and great writers and how they speak, and how when she first went to Chilton, she wanted to be Christiana Amanpour, if I'm saying that correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Amanpour?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
I don't think that's it.
I don't think that's it. Cristiano Ronaldo.
Amanpour, I thought it was.
That was Cristiano. Oh, we're talking about completely different people.
I'm going to put it on the screen. Y'all can read for yourselves. And so I really do believe that Rory, she already had this mindset that she wanted to become a journalist. And yes, I do believe that she had golden child syndrome, but that's also because if you watch beginning to end, every single situation where things start to become like toxic and people start to fight, you always notice that it always comes back to Lorelai getting pregnant. Because whenever Emily doesn't have any ammo left, and she doesn't have anything to, like, put over Lorelai, what does she do? It always comes back to, you're not responsible, you got pregnant at 16, you're not, whatever. And they always...
She has to hit her with low blows.
She has to hit her with the low blows, but, like, are we not thankful that Rory came into this world? Why can't we just put that... Stop beating the dead horse.
That poor girl.
That poor dead horse. Like...
Poor dead Rory. Like, and stop beating Rory. She's already down.
The situation always comes back to she got pregnant at 16. And Rory is always there, like, on the side, like, hearing it. So growing up, she's always having to hear how much of her birth and her existence is actually such a terrible thing. And that's also why I feel like Lorelai tries her best to bring up Rory so that she knows that, like, her existence is not a mistake. Because getting pregnant at 16 was the best thing to ever happen to Lorelai, basically. Like, tell me I'm wrong. She got to get away from her parents and basically have a new start.
I feel like definitely her getting pregnant is one of the... I feel like she definitely got pregnant for a reason. Like, Rory definitely is her guardian angel.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about it, but when Rory was conceived and everything, it was right when Lorelai was coming out to society, but she never got to go to her ball. They wanted to take the child in and basically raise it with her, and they wanted to put Christopher, her father, into the insurance business with Richard. And they were, like, explaining it, like, the parents of both Lorelai and Christopher were basically explaining how they were gonna deal with the situation because Lorelai was a situation, you know, not a human being with her own wants and needs.
A problem.
They were going to take over their entire lives, and that's what Lorelai didn't want. Because Christopher, he was not going to want to go into the insurance business. They were going to force them to get married because that's how they saw a solution to a pregnancy. They were always like, we have ways of dealing with these situations. When you get pregnant, you get married.
Exactly.
And Lorelai was like, we got to keep our futures because we didn't get married.
I just really wish that Lorelai and Emily and Richard could have had a better dynamic. Like, they could have had a progression.
They could have.
Where their relationships got better, but it just didn't. Every time that you thought that their relationship would get better, something went downhill.
It's passed
I'm sorry, I just realized I had a Gilmore Girls sweatshirt and I didn't even wear it.
Kenna.
I could have been wearing my Gilmore Girls sweatshirt this entire time.
Okay, next clip.
I missed an opportunity.
Next episode. Next clip, you can wear it, though. When Richard and Emily were, like, not willing to ever go to therapy and deal with their issues or whatnot, they could easily have gotten over Lorelai getting pregnant at 16. You don't just hold that over someone for 20 years. Like, just stop. Yeah. And that's where the generational trauma also comes in, because Lorelai has to deal with it for years upon years, and then eventually it's gonna rub off on Rory because Rory's being subjected to it.
Yeah.
But yes.
Sorry.
Daddy issues?
My phone keeps glitching. Daddy issues?
I feel like this is a good segue for the daddy issues because Christopher wasn't in the picture.
I was at the very end of my Lorelai statement. Anyways, basically just I feel like Lorelai definitely led to some of Rory's downfall, but on complete accident. I feel like it's just because of Lorelai's narcissistic way of parenting for both of them. Lorelai wasn't narcissistic about herself necessarily. She was narcissistic for Rory.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Right.
Like, she was very proud of Rory, which is good. Like, you want your parents to be proud of you. She was too proud.
Like in the one scene where she was really gassing up Lorelai was gassing up Rory, saying, "We look down on you, you petty little. We spit on you, like little ninnies," or something like that. But I don't necessarily think she was full-heartedly trying to act narcissistic and above people, but more of she wanted, I don't know, I guess to give Rory a sort of sense of she isn't below people. But I mean, she definitely showed it as, you know, we are all that. We are above everyone else. We are the golden people.
I have one strand of hair that just won't stay there. It just keeps falling down.
Also, I love the fact that Lorelai is, in Rory's eyes, like a hot mom, and she's desired by any man that walks the earth. But in the very first episode, the same guy hits on Lorelai and Rory. So what does that say about Rory? She doesn't even understand her own beauty because she kind of feels like her mother is more beautiful than she is. and she's kind of, like, blindsided by the fact that she's literally, like, her mother, but, like, 16 years younger. Because eventually she becomes that sort of, like, goddess to all men, where she's beautiful, like, any guy that sees her, like, becomes, what's it called? Mesmerized by her beauty. As soon as Jess sees Rory, he's already...
Oh my god.
And Dean...
As soon as we saw Jess.
And Dean sets the tone because he immediately saw something in Rory because of her strong sense of dedication to reading, and her focus and her drive. But then it was her beauty, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
But then he ends up cheating on his wife? Like,
that's so out of character.
We'll talk about that.
Sorry, y'all. I keep eating candy. Like, I just keep throwing different candies in my mouth. I'm probably you probably can't understand a word I'm saying.
It's okay.
Daddy issues.
Christopher issues. So, we did talk about how Lorelai and Christopher were planned, or they were somewhat forced to get married as a solution to their pregnancy. Yep. So, what happens to Christopher in this whole picture?
He leaves.
And in a sense, it kind of does seem like Lorelai taking Rory away from their society of high living.
Yep.
High society living, sorry. That sounded weird the way I said it. It does kind of seem like she took Rory away from Christopher. But Christopher mentions many times that he understands that he wouldn't have been a good father the way that Lorelai was, and he wouldn't have been there the way that she was. We honestly don't really necessarily know where Christopher goes right after she gets pregnant, but all we know is that he didn't go to college, I don't believe.
No, I don't think he went to college.
So even if he did have to raise a child and whatnot, he would have had to get a full-time job, and he didn't. But now that he doesn't have a child, he had all of these future plans that he could have done, and he still ended up not going to college.
Nope.
So these high hopes that Christopher's parents had, I forgot what his parents were called, but...
No idea.
They were like, our Christopher had such high hopes before that Lorelai came into his life. Lorelai left with the child, so why didn't Christopher go to college? And you're telling us that it was Lorelai's fault, that she seduced their child. That was basically what they described Lorelai as, was just a teenage girl who seduced Christopher into getting pregnant. And Rory was here to hear all of this too, which she's constantly being reminded how much of an issue her existence really is. So I really feel for the child.
Yeah, and Christopher didn't really start to make an effort until later on in the series.
Yes, and she's so excited to see her father. You can tell how important it was to see him come into town. And one of the first scenes that we see with him, it's in Andrew's bookshop, and he's trying to buy an encyclopedia for his kid to try. At least he's trying. He's not a horrible person.
Yeah.
He's just not a father. And his card gets declined right then and there. It just goes to show that he still isn't even set up to be a father. So how could he have even been a father when she was born,
Exactly.
Lorelai wasn't ready to hold Christopher's hand and take care of a child at the same time. And I think it was understood that that's how it was. And Lorelai was waiting all this time for Christopher to get his shit together, and he really never did.
Nope, he was never really interested in it.
But you know who's also waiting? Is Rory.
Yep, exactly. I feel like Christopher and Lorelai's dynamic and just Christopher all together definitely had a lot of impact on Rory and her relationships, which leads us to our next segment, Rory's daddy issues.
It's like we don't
Part
all have
2.
Part 2. Yeah, so the first love interest that she ever has...
Dean Forrester, also known as Sam Winchester.
Thank you for saying that. Oh my goodness. If you've ever watched Supernatural, you know Sam and Dean.
The faces that we're making right now.
Oh my goodness. I cannot believe that his acting went from Dean Forrester to Sam Winchester. That is such a jump. Like,
so good, though.
I watched Supernatural, like, all the way to season 12, and then I stopped. And then I watched Gilmore Girls for the first time. So it was like... I didn't do that, but...
I went to go speak, and it just came out. There wasn't even a warning. Oh my god.
So, when Rory first meets Dean, she is literally packing up her crap to go to private school. And just having a small couple hours of conversation with this guy, all of a sudden, she doesn't want to go to private school.
Nope.
She doesn't need it. It's too far of a bus drive, which is like 30 minutes. It's just, she doesn't think she needs it, and she thinks that she has just as much of a chance of getting into Harvard just by going to public school. And Lorelai immediately recognizes this, and she calls BS, because she's like, this isn't you. You were just so excited to put on your Chilton uniform. Why all of a sudden are you talking about bus rides and all of this when it has been your dream to go to private school? She met this one boy for one day, and she was willing to throw away her entire academic career for a boy. If that doesn't scream daddy issues. I'll probably get into Harvard based off of my grades in public school. I don't need private school.
If that doesn't scream daddy
issues. And the fact that her second boyfriend that she has is literally like bad boy material, Jess Mariano.
I literally have a picture of him on my computer. I'm staring at it right now. Love him. My husband.
To be fair, I think we all wanted Rory to end up with him.
Can we talk about how it's really fitting how I'm recording this on my computer that is literally coated in Gilmore Girls stickers?
Oh, yeah. No, we are obsessed. Not as much as her, but we are obsessed. And she has stickers all over her computer.
My entire computer is just Gilmore Girls stickers. There's like a few that aren't Gilmore Girls.
Insert picture here. Anyways, so the fact that she goes from a loving boyfriend, which, let's not get it twisted, Dean was a good boyfriend, a good first boyfriend. He wasn't toxic, he wasn't pushy. He was a little toxic, though, because she doesn't want to say I love you at first approach when he says it, and he's like, break up.
Yeah.
But then she moves on to an even badder boy.
Yeah, but he
smokes. He has mommy issues. Let's not talk about how he has mommy issues. I kind of feel like maybe they had some sort of like they kind of got each other because they both liked books and they both had parent issues. I feel like maybe that kind of...
Yeah, like, what gets me is that Dean started off so cute. He started off so sweet. Season 1, Dean, I was obsessed. We all were.
He loved talking about books with Rory, even if he wasn't smart. He wasn't the smartest guy. He was more of a handyman. You know, he liked to build stuff. He eventually became a construction worker. And he wasn't a books guy, but he loved talking about books with Rory. He had an intellectual side. But then, eventually, his character just slowly, dives off. And he all of a sudden just gets married to some girl when he's in love with Rory.
Can we talk about how he didn't go to college?
Yeah. I saw a TikTok where it said that Dean had the grades and everything, that if he went to college, he could have been making so much more money than he would have being with Lindsay and working on that construction crew. Yeah. He built a whole ass car by himself.
Literally, for Rory.
In high school, to build an entire vehicle, and it passed inspection 4 times.
Like, oh my god.
He could have gone to college and became a mechanic and could have made so much more money, but he married Lindsay and then eventually ended up cheating on her with Rory. He obviously was still in love with Rory, but he just got married. He just chose to get married. Like, What was up with that?
I really, throughout the entire series, wanted a redemption arc for Dean, and it just never happened.
It looks, for his character in general. Yeah. I was gonna say, for their relationship, they do get back together, but that's after he really screwed the pooch with his wife. And then they realize that they really messed up because they're not right for each other.
Okay. And then Jess and Rory's relationship was adorable. Oh, my husband. Love him with my whole heart.
Let's get it now.
Jess and Rory's relationship was adorable before it started.
Well, yes. The leading up to their relationship was so cute. It was very, very preteen, very innocent. But it did get
I'm gonna fall asleep to it tonight.
But it did get very, like, I don't know, they weren't at the right time for each other.
No, it was right person, wrong time, I feel like.
Yeah, he had a lot more issues he had to deal with, so.
So, they had amazing chemistry at first, but as things went on, you could tell that Jess wasn't ready for a relationship.
Yep.
Literally what we just said.
Right.
He had to work on himself first before he could be in a relationship. He had so many issues, so many flaws, and he had to, like, really just work on himself and take accountability for himself and his mental health before he could be with Rory.
He didn't think he needed to finish high school. He wanted to go straight into the workforce and just to get money. Yeah. I didn't agree with that. I mean, he had 1 year left, wasn't it?
Yes.
He had 1 year left and he was throwing it away. He could have had so many more options if he just had that high school degree. And he was really pushing it. And I really think it's because he had the opposite of Rory. No one was forcing him to go to school and get a good education.
And he is a very insecure boyo. He's incredibly insecure. He never felt like he was good enough for Rory.
Yes.
Before they even were together, he just never felt like he was good enough for Rory, but he also seeked that validation in Rory. And when they had their first big argument after the party, he immediately was like, I'm not good for her. I'm going to run away, and ran off and completely disappeared.
I feel like he knew that he wasn't good for Rory, but she was letting him in. And he had the opportunity and he knew that he wanted her, so he pursued her. Like, he wanted Rory, and even though he knew that he wasn't ready, he wanted her. And that's why he really pushed to get her and Dean to break up, which they did.
The whole situation with Rory and Jess probably gave Rory even more abandonment issues because her father left her.
And then Jess just leaves.
Then Jess, who she left Dean for, and then he leaves her.
She was on the bus that Jess was on when he was leaving town, and she had no idea that that was him leaving town. He literally just left. He's just like, she's like, I'll see you later, right? And he goes, yeah, I'll see you later. He has his duffel bag with him, and he's gone. No word.
I am picturing it in my head, and I'm about to cry. Now comes Logan.
Oh, another bad boy that Rory goes for, but instead he is from high society living.
Logan reminds me a lot of Christopher.
Logan's father is
Mitchum Huntsberger.
Mitchum Huntsberger, who is very big in the publishing business. So Rory really looks up to his opinion for her journalism, and that's where Kenna will start to talk about her downfall.
Logan definitely, they started off with really good chemistry. They were great for each other. Amazing. Loved them so much. Well, not right off the bat. Right off the bat, they started off as like a situationship.
Right.
And then they started having good chemistry.
Logan's the type of person that only does hookups. He can't have a permanent attachment to anybody, which I feel like Rory, she's an attachment kind of person, and he is not. But like I said, Rory is the type of person that any man on the face of the earth would drop to his knees for her, and that's exactly what Logan did. When she was like, I mean, you don't want a relationship, that's cool. And he's just like, so a relationship is what you want? Fine, I'll do it. I'll do a relationship for you, Rory. And she's like, that's not what I'm asking. And he's just like...
But what I love about him, too, is even though he is head over heels for Rory, he is not afraid to call her out. which is what she needs. Like, the moment when she and Logan were having an argument and she was complaining about all of these privileged people get by in Yale just being like privileged and blah blah, and Logan stops her and he goes, Rory,
you also
you're
come from a
privileged
place
too.
of privilege too.
Like, yeah, you might not be as privileged as these kids, but you are also privileged. You get money from your grandparents. You are here because of your grandparents.
Like, Lorelai talks a lot about how she had to struggle to raise Rory, but Rory never had that struggle because she had every opportunity that she ever wanted given
Rory
to her.
Rory never understood that.
Yes.
Rory never understood it.
The struggle was on Lorelai.
There were so many times, too, where Rory would, like, downplay Lorelai's life. Like, there was one moment during her downfall, there was a moment where she lived with her grandparents, and then she comes back, and her and Lorelai have a mini argument when she comes back, and Rory's like, you have no idea what it was like living with them. Lorelai grew up with them. What do you mean?
So, if you have ever, like, grown up with, like, older parents, like I did, my parents are 60, they had me very late. Like, as they get older, they get softer. You know, things start to slide. They start to stop caring. They start to, like, kind of ease up because they have less control.
Yeah, exactly.
When Emily and Richard were raising Lorelai, they were younger, they had more energy, they had more control. That is when they really probably put Lorelai through it. And Rory was only living with them for how long? Like a couple months?
Yeah.
So yeah, Rory had no room to say, you have no idea what it was like.
Exactly.
She had her own sex pool house.
Oh my god.
Lorelai had to escape out her bedroom window a lot of the times to get out of the house. Rory got her own pool house, redecorated for herself, and she got to have her boyfriend over whenever she wanted. And the maid cleaned her room and did her laundry and everything. And she let it happen. After a while, she sort of started to just let it happen.
We'll talk more about Rory's downfall in a second. There was another moment Rory ends up dropping out of Yale, and Lorelai is like telling her, like, hey, this is stupid. Why are you doing this?
This isn't
and
you.
Rory goes, you have no idea what college is like. You never went. And then Lorelai goes, I didn't have the privilege to go.
You have so
I
much
wasn't
privilege,
able
girl.
to go.
Yes.
Like Rory never took accountability for how much privilege she had, and even in the revival, she still never did.
Okay.
She never took accountability for her own actions and the privilege that she had, and it makes me so upset because I root for her. Time and time again.
I know that, like, now you always tell me this, and how, like, Rory doesn't take accountability for her, you know, ignorant ways, and she's always acting like she had such a rough upbringing. No, your mother had a rough upbringing. Exactly. You had everything given to you because your mother basically worked herself to death.
Exactly, which leads us into Rory's downfall. During season 3 and 4, she goes to Yale. Rory was doing great at Yale. Her downfall, in my opinion, starts when she gets bad feedback from Doyle in, like, season 4, I think it was.
Right.
She eventually goes to the ballet. She writes the review, and it goes terribly for everybody, but Rory. At the end of the episode, still didn't really take much accountability for it. There was one moment that made me cringe so hard, where in the paper she compares the ballet dancer to a hippo.
Okay, so like...
And the ballet dancer confronts her, and Rory goes, but I wasn't calling you a hippo. I was comparing you to a hippo. It's completely different.
Rory has always had this idea of how she writes her papers, but then Doyle gives her criticism saying that she's doing everything correct, her research and her facts are solid, but she doesn't put any of her opinions in it. So when she goes to this ballerina's show, she goes based off of everything that Lorelai jokes about, and she puts that in her show review, and she does it completely unfiltered. So everything that she says comes off as rude because it was her making jokes at the ballerina during the show. And so when she's putting in her opinions, it's not even her opinions. Her mother made the bra strap comparison of the fat rolls.
Yep.
So she wasn't even using, like, her own original, like, thoughts. And Doyle loved it. So, like, that really set off, like, a bad example of what kind of journalist she should be.
That just leads me to my whole conspiracy that Rory Gilmore actually was a
bad writer.
Pretty bad journalist.
But to be fair, all throughout
she was a good writer, but a bad journalist.
Oh, she was a good writer, but a bad journalist, probably, yeah. Because all throughout, Chilton, she was a great student, everything that she wrote was amazing. So, like, how did she somehow stop being good in Yale?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think at this moment is when she starts her downfall. Around this point is also when she ends up sleeping with Dean while he's married.
And she doesn't even...
And she blames Lindsay.
Oh, yeah. She shouldn't be, like, that's my Dean. Like, he was mine first.
Yeah, he was mine first. No, he's married.
He's married. That's Lindsay's.
He's married.
Lindsay's married.
He has a ring on his finger, honey.
But that's when she eventually, like, breaks down and realizes what happens. And then that's when she flips the script and goes to Europe with Emily. And she sort of, like, splits away from Lorelai because she knows that Lorelai was right. Lorelai berates her for having a relationship with Dean while he's married.
There's so many random moments where I'm like, this is not Rory Gilmore.
She's really acting out.
What? Like, her downfall, like, it was expected.
I feel like that's
by the way that she was brought up, but it happened so quickly.
The downfall started with Doyle's bad review of her journalism.
Yes.
But when she starts interning for Mitchum Huntsberger, her boyfriend's father, who is, like, very big in the game. Okay, he's one of the biggest names. When he turns her down and says that she doesn't have it to become a journalist,
she drops out.
She immediately drops out. She loses all hope. That's when she's like, her whole world flips upside down, and she steals a yacht. That's immediately what caused her to do it.
Not only did she drop out of Yale, but she also, 1, moved in with her grandparents, and 2, joined the DAR, became somebody that she said that she was never going to be. She hated the rich life. She hated it. She hated the DAR. She didn't want to be like her grandmother, and now look at her.
Lorelai, Richard, and Emily all had a plan to sit her down and talk about it and convince her to go back to school, listened to Rory one-on-one, and her thoughts, and didn't even think, and they were like, fine, we'll just make it really comfortable for you to quit college and just live in our pool house. And eventually, Richard even saw it. Richard did not want Rory to become Emily.
Like, that flip of the switch that Richard had for a second made me love Richard and respect him.
But also,
that I was like, I respect you, and then he lost it.
We never even talk about the fact that Richard schemed one of Lorelai's ex-boyfriends, Jason Stiles. They eventually start dating, but no one knows this. And Richard becomes partners with Jason. Jason Derulo. Basically partners up with Jason's father, who is also in the insurance business.
Derulo.
And Richard helps Jason's father cut Jason off from the entire... Shut the fuck up. He stole all of his insurance clients from Jason and had them put back into Kenna.
I can't help it.
And then he partners back up with Jason's father, who fired him from the company.
Yes.
Richard is like he's this small of a character, but he's this loud when it comes to being an awful person, but he's in the background, so, like, they don't ever talk about how toxic he really is.
Basically cuts Lorelai out of her life for a long time. And can we talk... Okay.
About if you guys were interested and you haven't seen Gilmore Girls and you are interested by what we said, go and watch it. It may take you a while to get through.
Also, if you guys do, I really hope that this gets to the right side of YouTube. If you guys do love Gilmore Girls and you guys want us to do another episode on Gilmore Girls, we can do an entire episode on A Year in the Life.
Mm-hmm.
And our opinions on that show. Because A Year in the Life is a revival of Gilmore Girls. Basically, what A Year in the Life is supposed to be is the director and creator of Gilmore Girls said that they always wanted this one line to end the show, and it didn't in Gilmore Girls. So they remade the revival around that whole how the creator originally wanted the show to end.
Yeah, so if you haven't watched Gilmore Girls, you should probably watch that first. But The Year in the Life, personally, I freaking hated it. But the ending
I
really...
have a love-hate relationship with it.
So, thank you for watching this. If you love Gilmore Girls, I hope you really liked our perspective because it is such a deep show, and you could get into like Suki and Jackson, Lane and Kim. We never got to go into those characters, but we can probably do another episode in the future because Lane and Kim have a lot of generational trauma, but also religious trauma as well. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Suggest topics for us to talk about as well. We can really get into it. We want to learn new things, and like we said, we want to be your therapists. We want to be here for you when you have no one else, so.
Sorry.
Jason
Derulo. I was really fighting so hard.
Her brain cell was just like...
Every time I heard Jason in the back of my head, I just heard Derulo.
Okay. We're going to let Kenna sleep now. So thank you.
Good night, my friends.
We'll see you later. Bye.
I would suck a singular toe for a soft pretzel.